I'm honored to have this opportunity to address this fine group of people and regret that I'm unable to attend this event in person. In particular, I would have liked to have had an opportunity to spend time with my good friend Vicki Kennedy and to have a chance to pay tribute to my friend and former colleague, the late Senator Ted Kennedy, and reflect on what we, with the help of everyone here today, were able to accomplish with the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act. It's hard to believe that it's already been a year since the Serve America Act was signed into law, yet I am pleased with the work that's been done in this short amount of time. Speaking about volunteer service, President George H.W. Bush once said, quote, "A volunteer is a person who can see what others cannot see, who can feel what most do not feel. Often such gifted persons do not think of themselves as volunteers, but as citizens, citizens in the fullest sense of partners in civilization," unquote. I think gatherings like this, which are meant to celebrate and encourage service and unity in difficult political times, are a confirmation of President Bush's words. Volunteerism and service in communities is a staple of American life. Indeed, I've said it in the past, that I believe that volunteer service is the lifeblood of our republic. Service takes many forms in our country. There is no greater example of service than those who put on a military uniform and go into battle for their country. Other Americans have decided to go into the public service, including teachers, police officers, and yes, even senators and their staffs, to serve our communities through our public institutions. Oftentimes, it's not a choice that pays off economically, but they do it because they want to serve others. And of course, the vast majority of American volunteers perform their service in a traditional, episodic setting, working in schools, houses of worship, workplaces, nonprofit institutions, and in their neighborhoods. All of these forms of service deserve our appreciation as they help to define America as a country. America is a generous nation, and Americans are compassionate people, and our volunteer spirit knows no bounds. As I mentioned earlier, our nation is in the midst of no small amount of political strife. Indeed, political and partisan divisions seem to have permeated almost every aspect of our nation's culture, from the news channel talk shows to movies, books, and magazines, and even at many a family's dinner table. Throughout the accusations and the rhetoric, there appears to be a common disagreement in most political discourse regarding the proper size and role of the government. There is an ongoing and likely eternal debate as to what government should or should not, or can and cannot do for the people of our country. This debate seems to be at the heart of most of our nation's political conflicts, particularly over the last few years. I'm sure it will come as no surprise to most of you that I tend to believe that less government is better. Some of you may agree with me, others are free to disagree, but I'm not here to espouse what I see as virtues of limited government. I bring up these fierce disagreements only to point out that I believe there is something that everyone in this room will agree on. That is the need to encourage our nation's tradition of volunteer service. Indeed, whether you believe government should be big or small, activist or restrained, government solutions are too often subject to the political winds of our democratic system and to the fiscal limitations that come with government budgets. Yet, our nation's volunteer spirit does not rely on a government program. Indeed, when Americans want to solve problems, they don't first look to government or the state. They look to themselves and their communities. The innovation and enterprise of the American people will always play a more constant role in improving our communities than any attempted government intervention. Sure, our government can offer resources, but it cannot love a needy child, offer the hand of compassion to help the elderly live independently in their homes with dignity, or help provide the deft human touch that gives hope in times of despair. It was this belief in American generosity and in the strength of our nation's volunteer spirit that motivated me and Senator Kennedy as we worked on this draft to pass the Serve America Act. We were not alone in this feeling. I'm proud to say that In what has been one of the most politically divisive times in our nation's history, the Serve America Act is one of very few major pieces of legislation to pass with broad bipartisan support during this current Congress. True enough, the Serve America Act involves some government programs. However, instead of empowering some government agency or creating a new bureaucracy to go into America's playgrounds and solve problems, the programs represent an investment in that volunteer spirit that is uniquely American. Instead of expanding government, it empowers individuals, nonprofits, charities, and other service organizations, the very people who are here today, to do more of the heavy lifting in their own neighborhoods. I think that regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, this has to be seen as a good thing. My interest in promoting volunteer service began a long time ago. As a 20-year-old young man, I spent 2 full years serving as a Mormon missionary. That experience was, for me, a pivotal time in my life. I've said numerous times I wouldn't trade my experience as a missionary with being a United States Senator. It was that meaningful. That, to me, is the most amazing thing about volunteer service. Certainly, when a person volunteers to help in their community, there are immediate beneficiaries of their service. The child who is tutored, the family who receives food and shelter, or the sick person who is cared for, but oftentimes the people who are affected the most in our lives are the volunteers themselves. This shared connection enjoyed by volunteers is a vital part of the American experience, and I believe it has been strengthened by the Serve America Act. Thank you once again for having me here this evening, and more importantly, thank you for the service you all perform in our communities. God bless you all.